All right, y'all. So the right is absolutely falling apart right now. They are at each other's throats. They're trying to slit some jugulars. MAGA is imploding into a massive civil war over Israel attacking Iran and the U.S. being involved in it. So I got a whole bunch of stuff to walk you through here. Let's start with this here. Michael Tracy says, cheers to these two Republican congressmen for openly demanding regime change rather than shrouding their aspirations in more cluttered language. So he's talking about Congressman Michael Baumgartner, who says, the single best thing that could happen for peace in the Middle East is to regime change in Iran. Okay. Mario Diaz-Balart says, excellent words by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Regime change in Iran is a service to humanity. The cause of a free Iran is alive and will succeed because of the brave Iranian people within and abroad who have continued to fight for its freedom. So Netanyahu is out there now saying what, of course, his position is, which it has always been since the fucking 1980s, which is regime change in Iran. We have to do it. He's now out there saying it openly. You have Republican politicians who are hopping on board and agreeing in very clear terms. But those are not the only voices in the room. So you have what is typically called the paleoconservative right, or the isolationist right. And they are, let's be kind and say, somewhat objecting. I say somewhat because they're so fucking tepid, because when Trump does some shit, he is the right. He is MAGA. So when he does some shit, to dissent from him is basically like excommunicating yourself from the cult. And so you can only dissent so much. So what you'll find is even people who disagree with regime change in Iran, they have to be very careful about it to always pretend like, well, Trump didn't do anything wrong. And if anything, he was duped by bad actors, bro. So there's always some degree of bullshit among even the right-wing people who are anti-regime change in Iran. So in step Tucker Carlson. He says, the real divide isn't between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between those who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it. Between warmongers and peacemakers. Who are the warmongers? They would include anyone who's calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in a war with Iran. On that list, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Ike Perlmutter, and Miriam Adelson. At some point, they will all have to answer for this, but you should know their names now. So I responded and said to him, you left Donald Trump off the list of obvious warmongers. Max says, at some point, you will have to confront the fact that Trump himself is a warmonger who used an anti-war message as a political prop. See Yemen, Gaza, West Bank, Iran, Venezuela, etc. He isn't being tricked by anyone. This is his war. I'm happy that there's some people within the right-wing movement who are saying, hey, I'm kind of against this, right? Like, okay, good. But, like I said, they have to give you a heaping dose of bullshit along with it and pretend like Trump wasn't down with this. He's always been fucking down with this. Anything else is just noise. Everything else is just kayfabe. He is down with this. Let me give you more of what Tucker has to say. So Mark Levin has been coming after him aggressively. In fact, here, I'll show you one of the Mark Levin things. Mark Levin, he's got the worst, most nasally voice of all time. He sounds like a dying emu. Mark Levin says, terror state in Iran ally Qatar using its state-run propaganda platform, Al Jazeera, in support of Chatsworth Carlson and his ilk to undermine President Trump and urge the abandonment of Israel. So he's calling Tucker Carlson Chatsworth Carlson. Why? Because Tucker has been openly saying, like, hey, I don't think it's a good idea to try to do regime change in Iran. So here is Tucker. He is on Steve Bannon's show, and here's what he has to say.
And that Levin character will jump, you hate them. Don't hate them at all. I like them. This is crazy. What's the end game here?
He's talking about Israel. Yeah, part of the problem is that. What do you mean? I don't hate them. I like them. Why? Why? What have they done to get you to like them? The government of Israel is the biggest rogue regime, war criminal regime on the planet. They are a terrorist regime. Oh, I like them. See, this is why the right-wing isolationist perspective or the paleoconservative perspective, they always lose to the neocons because they can't actually have the argument with the hawks Because it comes down to, well, I kind of agree with your general worldview, and I actually kind of like them, but I just don't think, I think strategically this is a bad idea, sir. He can't just say on moral terms, this is fucking wrong, and we are the baddies, and we need to stop, and the people doing it need to be arrested. He can't do it, because he's a right-winger. Unbelievable.
Don't hate them at all. I like them. This is crazy. What's the end game here? The end game, of course, is to topple the regime and just have this 90 million person civil war and further destroy Europe and the world. And, it's like, we're not doing that again. We've already been through this. We're not doing that again.
Tucker, they're doing it. And you helped him get into power. How's it taste, bitch? He was riding hard for Trump. And then, oh, would you look at that? You get war with Iran. You were duped. You were duped.
And this is big boy stuff. This is not Gaza. And I never say anything about Gaza, because I really tried, very offended by it. They blew up a church in Gaza with my money. I'm a Christian. Like, no, how about no? I said one thing about that, but I've never heard the end of it. But I tried to stay away from Gaza.
Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. He's explaining how fundamentally weak of a man he is. I don't talk about the genocide in Gaza, because people get mad at me when I talk about it, so I've largely shut up about Gaza. Oh my God, you little bitch. This makes you look like such a fucking cuck. So you're not standing up against the crime of all crimes, because a bunch of people in your right-wing audience don't like it. And notice what he did there. He brought up, oh, they blew up a church in Gaza. The reason why he's doing it, the reason why he's bringing that specific fact up is why. He feels like, oh, that'll make my right-wing audience be more understanding as to why I have sympathy for people in Gaza. But he's specifically leaving out the overwhelming majority of the massacred children in Gaza are Muslim. Do they not count, Tucker? See, that's what I'm saying. He can't argue in moral terms. He can't say, this is wrong, this is evil, this is terrorism, we are the baddies, Benjamin Netanyahu needs to be arrested, Donald Trump needs to be arrested. He can't do it. Instead, it's, well, strategically, I kind of disagree, and remember that one time you got a church, but I try not to talk about it because I don't want to upset you. Well, that means you're a little bitch. That means you're a little bitch.
But I tried to stay away from Gaza, but now we're talking about a huge country. We're talking about Southwest Asia, one of the biggest energy producers
and
in
an
the world.
ancient civilization. This is not...
Also, since you're not going to convince me that the Iranians, I'm not a Shiite. I'm not like on the side of the Shiite clerics. I'm a freaking Episcopalian. Settle down. However, you're not going to convince me that the Iranian people are my enemy. Again, we're going down this here. Here's who you're required to hate. It's Orwell, man. I'm a free man. You're not telling me who I have to hate. I'll decide who I like and don't like on the basis of my values and what I believe my interests are. They spent 5 years telling me Vladimir Putin is your enemy. No, he's not. I'm not mad at Vladimir Putin. Tell me why I should be. I'm mad.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Because he illegally and offensively invaded a country that didn't attack him? How about that? How about that's a good reason to not like Vladimir Putin? Oh my God. The paleo-conservatives are such fucking cuck bitches. It's all like posturing, right? Like, that's all this is. I mean, fuck. Like this, you're never going to win the argument with Mark Levin being this much of a weasel.
Why I should be. I'm mad at you. You know what I mean? This is like, it's all so fake. I'm not playing along.
Well, we'll see how much you play along, because there is no doubt we're going to be so heavily involved in that shit. We already are. Who are we kidding? Trump greenlit the fucking massive attack. He literally sent them a whole bunch of Hellfire missiles right before the attack. We knew it was coming. That's why we emptied our troops from our bases in the region. Now we have U.S. soldiers helping with air defense. We're directly involved. And it's going to be this bullshit. Oh, I don't think we should get directly involved. We already are, bitch. Oh my God. Look, having said all that, his contribution to the conversation is still better than the outright hawks like fucking Mark Levin, who the only time he can get a fucking boner is when he thinks of dead Iranians. Now everybody on the right, all the neocons, they're trying to attack the paleocons by saying, oh, look, you used to have the opposite position, bro. And this is also really fucking stupid, too, because, yeah, he acknowledges the fact, Tucker does, that he used to be a total neocon warmonger, and now he's a paleo-conservative, right? So this isn't the own that they think it is. And by the way, the people who are trying to do this own, it's people like Ari Fleischer, who was one of the biggest Iraq war hawks, who was wrong about fucking everything, okay? So you have no leg to stand on. You could shut the fuck up forever. But here's a compilation of what Tucker used to say on this issue versus what he says now.
I'm just struck by that in everything you see come from the government of Iran, there is anti-Semitism, which has got to be among the most off-putting things in the Western world. I think what you say is you either stop your nuclear program or we will bring down an earthquake upon you using God's wrath.
I do think, I'm sure I'm a lone voice in saying this, I think Iran deserves to be annihilated. I think they're lunatics. I think they're evil.
Netanyahu says, no, we need to bomb the hell out of them. We need to defeat them like we defeated Saddam and Assad and Gaddafi. We need to take out this evil regime. That's his line.
So it's not about nukes, what you're saying.
you're saying it's not about nukes, it's about regime change.
I think for sure.
Ex-Fox News host blasts complicit president for backing Israel after attacks in Iran. He says the real divide isn't it between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between those who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it. Between warmongers and peacemakers. Who are the warmongers? They would include anyone who is calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in the war with Iran.
Okay, so we also have Bannon and Flynn are both unhappy with Trump's performance in the Middle East, but in opposite ways. Flynn wants Trump to literally declare war on Iran with Israel tonight. Bannon thinks it's sloppy and ill thought through to go to war with, quote, Persia. All right, here we go. Let's see what they have to say.
Right now, I'll be blunt. This is just as sloppy, just as ill thought through, just as lack of precision as Afghanistan and how we started there, and Iraq as we started there, and quite.
By the way, I have to point this out again. You guys need to realize this about the paleo-conservatives or the isolationist right. Again, look at how chicken shit that argument is. The lack of precision is not, it's not strategically sound, sir. Like, that's not, you're never going to win the argument until you start telling the fucking truth, which is, again, we started this war. We went on the offense. We were aggressive. Iran didn't attack Israel. They weren't planning on fucking attacking Israel. They're not even trying to build a nuke. We are just the baddies. It's that simple, right? And they'll never go that far, ever. Because again, fundamentally, he's on the right.
Frankly, the Fox News team and the pom-poms up, we played on the cold open the other day, shock and awe, shock and awe, shock and awe. When Fox was up there with the pom-poms, we are inexorably drawn into a conflict that we're not making clear decisions about now. If we're going to be in this,
yeah. So let me jump in.
That's also we're being drawn in. We're being dragged in by Israel. We're not being dragged in. Donald Trump fucking chose this. He chose this, sloppy Steve.
Let me jump in.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
You're on a diatribe there. That's fine. Here's what Trump needs to do, okay? What Donald Trump needs to do, and I understand the celebration in Washington, D.C. and the parade and all this wonderful stuff. Yep. Happy birthday, Army. I got it. What Donald Trump needs to do, President Donald J. Trump needs to do, is he needs to go to the podium with very clear objectives about what the hell we're doing. And I mean, none of this, I got special envoys doing this, I got special envoys doing that. Very clear objectives. Tell the American people, this is what we are doing. And he needs to do that like today.
General Flynn, I know you got to bounce. If you were advising the president, you would tell him today in all the celebration, all the commemoration, you've got to come to the podium. You have to address the American people. What would you recommend that the president of the United States tell the American people, sir?
Yeah, so I would, he needs to bring in some really key advisors, and he needs to develop a couple of overarching strategic objectives of what America is doing. And I'm talking about for the Middle East, for Eastern Europe, for the home front, and for China, all the things that he's been talking about for the last couple of months, and certainly what he campaigned on. He needs to give very clear objectives, and he needs to do that like tonight. I mean, he should address the nation in a very sort of State of the Union type address, because there is a war footing, and I want to be very clear with your audience and Congress, who still doesn't get it, and the establishment, they still don't get it. We're in a full-blown Marxist revolution here at home. And
a Marxist? What the fuck are you babbling about? So he's in favor of us going into a giant war with Iran, and he's babbling about being in a Marxist revolution here? Are you fucking kidding me?
And it is very clear to me. So, but the answer to your question at the beginning was no.
Following your logic, then President Trump is essentially saying we're going to get involved in another Mideast war. I'm just connecting all of your logical comments. So you're saying when he addresses the nation, since Israel's bound and determined to do this, that you just agreed that they can't do it without our involvement, direct involvement, then his address to the nation is prepare us to get involved in an extended Middle East war on a foe that is an ancient civilization. This is not Iraq. It's not Afghanistan. This is Persia.
Persia? He's so fucking ancient. All right, so more. Marjorie Taylor Greene came out and said the following. Everyone is finding out who are real America First / MAGA and who were fake and just said it because it was popular. Unfortunately, the list of fakes are becoming quite long and expose themselves quickly. Anyone slobbering for the U.S. to become fully involved in the Israel-Iran war is not America First / MAGA. So she says that, so she's siding with Tucker Carlson. But Trump came out and said this. When I called Trump by phone this morning, the president wanted to make one thing clear. Quote, America First means whatever he says it does. Well, considering that I'm the one that developed America First and considering that the term wasn't used until I came along, I think I'm the one that decides that, Trump told me. For those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. So for all those wonderful people who don't want to do anything about Iran having a nuclear weapon, that's not peace. So that's Trump saying, I'm a warmonger and I'm with the warmongers. So as Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, oh, but sir, that's not America First. Trump's like, fuck it, bitch slap. It's whatever the fuck I say it is. And you know what? Trump is right. And the reason he's right is because he says everything all the time on the campaign trail. He's pro-war. He's anti-war. He's pro-tariff. He's anti-tariff. He takes this position. He takes that position. He does it all the fucking time. And the problem is that since MAGA is a cult, what people do is they only hear the part they want to hear and they disregard the thing they don't want to hear. And, oh, the thing that he said that I agree with, that's the thing he actually believes and that he's actually going to act on. That's how these people think. Well, now it's a test of how principled you are. Is Tucker Carlson going to fully break up with MAGA since Trump is going through with war in Iran? Is he going to say, you know what, I'm done with it? And is he going to go back to what he used to say behind the scenes? I'm sick of this guy. Nothing good ever came out of his political era. He's a mess. I can't wait to stop talking about him. Is he going to go back to that Tucker Carlson, which again was only behind the scenes, by the way? In front of the cameras, he was slobbing Trump's knob. Or what's he going to do? Or is he going to say, sir, Trump was duped and it's not his fault and they're taking him for a ride and I think strategically this isn't great. My guess is what's going to happen is most of these people who are now breaking with Trump are eventually going to bend the fucking knee again. And they're eventually going to try to find a way to assign blame to everybody not named Donald Trump so they can keep riding Trump's nuts. That's my guess. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I'm pretty sure is going to happen because it's happened every other time to this point. All right, we got more. Here is Ted Cruz steps in, and he's pretty direct with his language. Here we go.
Senator, do you want to see regime change? Do you think that happens soon? And what would the future look like in that regard?
Look, I think it is very much in the interest of America to see regime change. I don't think there's any redeeming the Ayatollah. He is filled with hatred.
He just says it. Regime change. Yay, I'm Ted Cruz. Me. Regime change. Virtually every Republican congressman I've seen, except Marjorie Taylor Greene and maybe one or two others, and every Republican senator, they are all hard as fuck over the idea at war with Iran. Trump loves the idea. Netanyahu, obviously, is orchestrating this and leading it. And then you have every Fox News host, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, you name them. They all love the idea of war in Iran. But then on the flip side of it, you have You have sloppy Steve Bannon, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Charlie Kirk was one. These were all the people who were like, oh, I'm not sure it's the best idea. Strategically, I don't think it would make sense. And those are the two different camps, right? But as I said, here's my guess. Ultimately, most of them will just fall in line behind whatever Trump ends up doing, but they'll pretend like, oh, Trump was duped by those around him again. That's what they'll do. So Trump will continue with this war path, and they'll somehow absolve him of the crimes, but keep going after the people around him for doing war with Iran. That's my guess. That's my guess. But fundamentally, and this point is so important, guys, I can't stress it enough. Paleoconservatism will never win the argument with neoconservatism. Isolationist conservatism will never win the argument with warhawk conservatism. It just won't. Because fundamentally, it's a weak argument from weak grounds, where instead of getting to the core of the question, which is about rights, and it's about principles, and it's about morality, instead of getting to the core of it, it always boils down to, well, strategically, sir, I'm not sure this is the best path, and I never even talked about Gaza, but because people got mad at me, but now you're trying to make me hate Iran. I'm not sure I hate Iran. It's avoiding the substance, the empirical facts about what's happening here, like Iran not even trying to make a nuclear weapon, and it's ignoring the morality of the question, which is, we are the baddies. We were the ones who illegally and offensively attacked. We armed Israel, we funded Israel, we greenlit them, attacking somebody who wasn't going to attack them, right? And they can never tell you the total truth. So fundamentally, their fake anti-war argument is toothless. It's toothless. But having said that, I hope that somehow they're the ones who get away unscathed in this conversation and that Trump goes in the direction that they want him to go in. But let's remember, guys, there's a reason why I'm so insistent that Trump's a fucking warmonger. It's because of his record. As you all know, increased drone strikes over 400%, kept us in Iraq, kept us in Afghanistan, occupied a third of Syria and bombed Syria, said he was taking the oil in Syria, bombed Somalia, increased the Pentagon budget every year, tried to coup Venezuela, ripped up the Iran agreement, killed Qasem Soleimani in an illegal strike, dropped a Moab on Afghanistan. The list goes on. We don't need to go through everything now, but you get the point. This is his record. And so all of these paleo-conservatives, these isolationist conservatives who don't love war, it was all fucking wishful thinking when they pretended like, oh yeah, Trump agrees with me. Based on what? Based on what? Because sometimes he says Kamala's a warmonger or Liz Cheney's a warmonger. Look at his fucking record and you'll realize he's full of shit. He's full of shit. So are you going to grow up and fucking split with MAGA? Or are you going to find a way to try to thread the needle? My guess is they'll all try to thread the needle. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.